Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ice Cold Takes podcast. I'm your host, Joey DeMeglio. We had another big week for the New York Rangers. They're back in the playoff push. They're continuing their strong play. They are 8-1-3 in 12 games since the start of 2025 in January. So, a great month after a rough 2-month stretch in November and December. They pushed themselves back into the playoff race. We'll take a look at the standings right now, right at the start here. I mean, it's a really tight race in the Eastern Conference. There's a bunch of teams battling it out for 2 wild card spots. As of right now, the Rangers are a point behind Columbus with the game in hand, and that's as of Saturday, January 25th. Rangers last week had a really important game. Probably it was the biggest game in the season at that point against the Blue Jackets, and it was a shutout, 1-0 shutout. In the shootout, Shesterkin was brilliant in that one. Rangers had so many opportunities. Zibanejad had so many breakaway opportunities. He had 2 breakaways in overtime, plus the shootout breakaway, and he missed all of them. So don't know what's going on with him. But the Rangers, again, the big thing to remember here is they are playing well. They're back to the way they're supposed to be playing, the way that I at least expected them to be playing at this point in the season. Washington is just destroying. They're just killing it. I think they are first place in the league. Who saw that one coming? I know they made a lot of improvements this offseason, but I didn't expect them to be first place in the Metro, first place in the NHL even. Crazy. Big move by the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll get into that. They traded for Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall last night. We'll talk about that later on in the episode, but I want to talk about the games the Rangers played this week because with every game, it just seems like they're back. Like they're improving defensively. All the things that made them successful last year are returning. And you could start to see even the flaws too are back to like how they were last year. The rush defense. It's like, okay, this team is good, but how do other teams take advantage of them? Okay, it's the rush defense. They're giving up too many odd man rushes, turning over the puck in the worst spots, breaking out the puck, a few issues here and there. But for the most part, the defense has really, really stepped it up. Everyone's playing with a sense of urgency, togetherness, hustle, heart. I mean, that's all good. This is all the stuff that I've been asking for um, when they were in that rough patch that they were in November and December. The hustle, all that stuff is back, and I mean that's all part of it. But this is just the way that we expect the Rangers to be playing. So this isn't like this run. Don't get me wrong. It's a great run that they've been on. Impressive, yes, but this is the way that they should be playing. This is the way we all expect them to be playing. Is it enough to, make a deep playoff run? I don't know. They're gonna have to win the Stanley Cup, definitely not, because there are some flaws here that need to get corrected. We saw it in the second period against the Flyers on Thursday. And then against Montreal in the third period on Sunday when we had that snowstorm. If you've got snow, if you live in the Jersey area, we got a lot of snow. Um, but there's a lot of areas the Rangers can improve upon. And this isn't a Stanley Cup winning team just yet. Again, they're playing the way that they're supposed to be playing, but I would go and say, as far to say, is this is not what they need to be to win the Stanley Cup. They still need to make improvements at 5-on-5 play. They still need to make a couple trades here and there. I think maybe another defenseman would help out. Maybe another forward or two would help. Trent Frederick, JT Miller, something like that. Another scorer would be great. Maybe you get someone in case Hedel gets hurt, like a third line center, something like that. Kind of like what you did last year for Wenberg. We'll get into that, but the games that they've played, that shootout win versus Columbus, in a game they really, really needed to win, I thought the Rangers played really well. Columbus is a dangerous team. You could see why they've found some success this year. The defense has improved a lot since last year with their new coach, Dean Evison. The Rangers, Shesterkin has been great. Great. I mean, he's the biggest reason why they won that game. Obviously, it's a shutout. But then the game against Montreal was a back-to-back. The Rangers they led 1-0, 2-1, 3-2, 4-3, and they lost that game in overtime. And that leaves you thinking, wow, this team is, maybe they aren't where we thought they were. Maybe this run is just, just a little run and maybe they're not back. But then after that, they have a complete dominant performance against the Senators. They take care of business against the Flyers. And, I'm sitting here thinking, this team is back. They're good. They can make the playoffs. Again, a deep run, a conference finals run. I can't go off of 1 month just to come to that conclusion. It's too soon. Um, like I said, I think they need to make more moves here um, to improve some of the areas on the team. But the th- just how everything is improved is great. I mean, good on Peter Laviolette to stick with the team. Good on the players for pushing themselves, not giving up, coming in with a better attitude. We talked to Peter Ball last week about it, and things just seem to be a lot different. The way that they were last year, it's more like it. But there's more work to be done. This is just the beginning. Um, After that game against Montreal, they gave up so many chances in the third period. They handed them the game pretty much. The defense wasn't that sharp in the third period. Montreal again has been pushing. They've found some sort of success as well. They're pushing for a playoff spot right now. They are tied with us, 52 points. There's a lot of teams. Again, there's a lot of teams going for these wild card spots. Boston, Columbus have the spots right now. Rangers, Ottawa, Montreal, Philly, Detroit, Pittsburgh, and the Islanders. Pretty much the entire Eastern Conference that's up for grabs. It's only 5 points, 6 points separating the Columbus Blue Jackets, who have that second wild card spot, and the Islanders, who have 47 points. So it's close. Anybody's ball game here. There's still enough time. We're having the Four Nations break coming up soon, so the Rangers will get some rest. Some of their players, Kreider, Trocheck, Zibanejad, Fox, they're going to be playing in that game in that tournament. So we'll see what happens, how that affects them coming out of that break there. See if they're tired, fatigued, or anything. See how hard they go in that tournament. Um, but back to the games here. Ottawa, I actually went to that game on Tuesday. I got a suite. Thanks to work. I got hooked up with the suite and the entire Demeglio, Daniello, big family. The D's, they were all there, young and old, Big D, Little D, Sister D, Niece D, Joey D, Papa D, Mama D, everybody, Brother D. We were all there. It was a complete, utter dominant performance from the Rangers, like start to finish. They were far and away the better team. Ottawa pushed a little bit in the second period, but I think Steve Valiquette's model only had them at one high danger chance for the game, which is insane. Um, who are the Rangers to only give up one high danger chance, especially this season when the defense has been so inept at times? Yes, I'm looking at the stats right now. One high percentage chance given up by the Rangers. Uh, they had 9 high danger chances themselves, 6 mid, 10 low percentage. They scored 5 goals. They could have had 8. 3 were called back. Cooley won in the third period. Very clearly, it was touched with a high stick. So, yeah, that one shouldn't have counted. But then they had 2 goals taken back to review. Arthur Kaliev has been playing amazing. He seems to have found a groove. I know he hadn't played at all in the NHL since this season before he got picked up by the Rangers on waivers. He seems to be fitting in very comfortably now. His shot is great. That second goal he had was taken back because Kreider was offside. In the first period, Matt Rempe was so far offsides. I was saying, like, all right, it's time. It's time to send him down, bring Berard back. But since then, Rempe and the fourth line have been playing really, really well for the Rangers. It's the best the fourth line has looked for the Rangers in a long time. It's been a while. They're in every game pretty much. Like they've been exceptional. Edstrom, Carrick is continuing a really, really good January. Edstrom is playing really well. Good on Laviolette for trusting him this season, not going with older guys, maybe Bo Grew or putting VZ in the lineup every night. And at this point, Jimmy VZ is expendable. The Rangers could flip him. I'm sure a playoff team would give up a pick, like a 4th rounder, 3rd rounder, something like that for a guy like that. I mean, he's not like a nothing player. VZ was a really effective defensive forward and on the 4th line, and he killed penalties. The fact that the Rangers aren't using him right now, that means like, they could take advantage of this. They don't need him. 4th line has been doing damage. That Rempe got a goal to make it 3-0 in that Ottawa game. Shesterkin with the shutout. He only faced, I believe, 20 shots. So light work for him. I tried to do like a soft tampering kind of chant at that game because, of course, Brady Tkachuk, captain of the Senators, was in the building. Shesterkin actually got a punch in on him in the third period. Pretty crazy. There was a scrum. He covered the puck, and there was a whistle. Everyone's gathered around the crease. Brady caught somebody with a punch, and then Shesterkin, it looked like he was hurt for a little bit. But then all of a sudden, you see him get up, and he goes right after Tkachuk. Like, that's crazy. You don't see a goalie doing that. That was nuts. I mean, watching that game just in person, that was crazy. That was nuts. Very entertaining. Really fun game to go to. 10 out of 10 experience. Also, the prime rib sandwich at MSG, incredible. Incredible. Like, it lived up to the hype of what everybody was saying about it. If you haven't tried it yet, it's in section 106, 104, I believe. It's the prime rib sandwich. I think that's what the name of the place is called. Next time you're at MSG, make sure you go try that. Incredible. Incredible. You have to get it with everything on it, though. The plain one was good, but with cheese and mushrooms, onions, everything is great. Incredible. The next game the Rangers played was Thursday against the Flyers. I listened to most of the first period on the radio because I was at work. It seemed like the Rangers got off to a really slow start in that one. They gave up a goal within the first minute and a half, first 2 minutes of the game. And that was like a typical, Rangers goal to give up this season. You have 4 guys pinching in the offensive zone. Guy gets caught, odd man rush the other way, 3-on-1, I believe, and puck goes in. No chance for Shesterkin. And then they take a penalty after that, I believe. Yeah, they took a penalty after that. Just a really rough first 5-10 minutes of the game for the Rangers. Then they started to patch things together. Kaliev had a really nice shift in the offensive zone. The third line was great. Kaliev pushed the puck back he poked the puck back to the point. Schneider made a really strong move to get around a Flyer player, went to the net, threw it on goal, and it went in. That hard work paid off. And then, a couple minutes later, there it is again, the fourth line back out there. Lindgren gets a shot on goal. Nice deflection by Edstrom, and the Rangers had the lead, and they never looked back. That was that end to the first period really strong. Really happy to see that. But then in the second period, the Rangers gave up a lot of opportunity. Shesterkin really had to be sharp in that one. I want to check out the chances in that from Natural Stat Trick because I didn't take a good look at it. Final score was 6-1. But in that second period, the Flyers outshot the Rangers at 5-on-5, 17-8. They had 15 scoring chances to the Rangers, 12 in that frame. 10 high danger chances, according to Natural Stat Trick. Steve Valiquette's model had the Flyers at 11 high percentage chances for the game. Expected goals 4.21, and they only scored 1. Shesterkin was unreal again in that performance. Since January, he's one of the best players, maybe the best goalie in the league, which is what the Rangers needed him to be. He's paid him to be the best goalie, and he's playing like it, putting the money where the mouth is, and that's what the Rangers need from him. Good performance from him. The Rangers survived that second period, and then the third period, I thought was one of their better periods that we've seen recently. It felt like the puck was just in the Flyers' end the entire time. With them chasing the game, it was 3-1. The Rangers had so many opportunities. They outchanced them 7-4 at 5-on-5, 3 high danger chances to 1. It were I mean, this is what bothers me on natural stat trick. Like, I don't remember them getting the Flyers getting that many chances in the third period, but the numbers like expected goals is it's really hard for me to judge it based off of that. Expected goals is a interesting metric. I much rather the scoring chances, shots is more telling where the puck is to me. Um, King Bog, hey Joey, hi. Thanks for checking out the stream. Um, but the Rangers had a solid performance. I mean, solid third period, I'll say, against the Flyers. That's what they need to be. That's how they need to be playing. And they have a big game coming up tomorrow afternoon against the Colorado Avalanche, who made a huge trade. Mikko Rantanen got traded to the Hurricanes and Taylor Hall. It was a 3-team trade. When's the last time we saw a trade like that in the NHL? Like a superstar, one of the best players in the league gets traded? Crazy. But Rangers, again, last thing before I talk about that trade, they continue to roll it back in the playoff hunt. The defense has improved steadily. I mean, here and there, you'll still see some miscues, fumbled pucks, failed zone exits, but overall has been a lot better. Borgen and Miller has been a much better pair than when I called them out a couple weeks ago. Much better. Miller is inconsistent, I would say. His when he's on, he's really on, but when he's off, he's really off. So like he has really high highs and really low lows. So what do you do with that? Do you want to go forward with that? I don't know. Due for contract extension. See what Chris Drury ends up doing with that. Shesterkin again has been unbelievable, and the top players continue to perform well. I think Lafreniere has points in 4 of the last 5 games. I want to double check that, but Montreal, he scored the first goal of that game. He was struggling for a little bit. He went a while without scoring a goal. He's got points in 4 of the last 5 games. 3, 4, 5 points in the last 5 games. He had 2 points against Ottawa, an assist against Philly. Scored that goal again against Montreal, and then he had an assist in Utah. So Lafreniere stepped it up. Fox has looked a lot better. Philip Hedl looks great. I mean, he took another. There was another scary collision in that game against Philly. I think it was with Schneider. And anytime you see Hedl go down on the ice, you fear for the worst because of his concussion history. Thankfully, he was able to get back up. He had a really strong game, and then he got rewarded with a goal. So good for him, continuing that strong play of his. But we'll move on to the Hurricanes, that big trade. Now, this is a division rival, so take notice here. There was a 3-team trade last night. The Hurricanes traded for Taylor Hall. It looked like they were just going to be getting him. But then Frank Saravalli dropped a bombshell of a tweet and said that they're also getting Mikko Rantanen. So a 3-team trade. The Hurricanes ended up giving Marty Necas and Jack Drury plus 2 picks to the Avalanche in exchange for Rantanen. They sent a 3rd-round pick, I believe, to Chicago for Taylor Hall. And Chicago acted as the broker in that trade, and they retained 50% of the contract on Mikko Rantanen. This is a huge deal because Rantanen is a free agent at the end of this year. If they sign him, if the Hurricanes find a way to keep him, unlike Jake Gensel, this is scarier than them perhaps keeping Gensel because they don't have a player like Rantanen. They have a lot of well-rounded players, Aho, Svechnikov. Necas was one of them. but they don't have an elite, high-end finisher, goal scorer, pure goal scorer like Rantanen. You add that to the mix, and man, that is just unreal. I wanna look at their cap situation to see if they be able to fit that under their salary cap. So Puckpedia, I miss Cap Friendly so much. Um, so yeah, so Rantanen is after the retention, it's 4.63 million against the cap. They took on all it looks like they took on all of Taylor Hall's $6 million salary. Um, but where is I'm still not used to how Puckpedia is. I wanna see what is their salary cap space for next year? Cap projections maybe? Yes, okay. 31 million in cap space for next season. So, who do they have to sign? Taylor Hall is a free agent, of course, Rantanen's a free agent. Roslovic, Jesper Fast. Roslovic's having a really good season for them. I know he was lighting it up. He had a lot of goals towards the beginning of the year. Burns, Dmitry Orlov, Riley Stillman, and then the goalie, Frederick Anderson. They could keep him. Rantanen, I think, was asking for like 14 million from the Avalanche, and they couldn't do that because they have Makar coming up soon, and they already have McKinnon at like 12.5 million dollars. Drew Livingstone covers the Avalanche. He tweeted, uh, Rantanen wanted 14 million plus. The Avs simply couldn't do that. McKinnon already makes 12.5, and Makar will be making north of that in the near future. They tried getting his number down, and Rantanen wouldn't budge. Rather than one last run with him, the Avs and general manager McFarland decided getting something now rather than nothing later was the right call. It's tough, but it is a smart thing to do. I agree. I think it's a tough thing. I think a lot of GMs would be tempted to hold on to a guy like Rantanen and make a playoff run, maybe trade somebody else to get another player in addition just to make one last push. But McFarland, general manager of the Avs, decided to get at least some value back. Marty Necas, I mean, he's nothing to laugh at. He's a really good player, having a great season. I want to look at the Avalanche cap situation here. So Necas is under contract for this year and next at 6.5. Then he'll be due for a big raise. But this is I kind of like this move for the Avs because now down the middle, you have McKinnon and Necas. That's really good. Instead of Necas and Middlestat. Middlestat becomes your third line center. Necas becomes the second line center. This is a nice move. I know you're losing out on your best pure goal scorer, but down the line, I mean, the hope is you want to replace someone like that, and you you free up a lot of cap space there. I mean, $6.5 million for Necas. I mean, the value is worth it. He's got over 50 points this year. He's doing really well. He's got 55 points in 49 games. Necas does this year. I know there was a lot of rumors about whether he would get traded or offer sheeted this past offseason with the Hurricanes. Eventually, they kept him, but maybe the Hurricanes felt they wouldn't be able to fit him under the cap. They wanted to make a bigger swing at Rantanen. Maybe they feel confident that they could get an extension done. But like if they don't sign Rantanen, then I'm looking at it as like, okay, this is just a rental 1 year, like half year kind of move for the Hurricanes. And not that I'm not that worried about it. But if they lock up Rantanen, then they're gonna be a problem for a long time. They've already been a problem, like big rival, top competitor in the Metropolitan Division. You give them that finisher in Rantanen and you keep them long term, that's an issue for the Rangers. That's something they're gonna have to deal with 4 times a year, plus potentially the playoffs. That's scary. That's scary. And I think it puts pressure on the Rangers to make a move. So this is overall, I think, is a smart move on both sides. Like, yeah, I think in terms of value, the Avalanche probably would have wanted to get more than a fourth liner, a second line center, and 2 mid-round picks, like a second and a fourth. Like, maybe they would have wanted a first and a prospect if the situation was. I don't think they had much of the leverage in in this situation because everyone knows that Rantanen's probably gonna be hitting the open market because Colorado couldn't get an extension done. The fact that they had to let him go and get something back, that's telling. So I think the Avalanche did what they had to do. The Hurricanes, smart move on them going all in here, not just settling for Hall, but also getting Rantanen. And I heard they might not be done. Maybe they go after JT Miller. Maybe they go after even Elias Pettersson's name has come up again in trade talk. Maybe they go after him. But I think ultimately this puts pressure on the Rangers to make a move. And I think the guy is JT Miller. Last week, on Saturday, actually, the Rangers were so close, really, really close to making a trade for JT Miller. There was discussions of whether Miller would be held out of the lineup for Vancouver for purposes of a trade. They didn't get to the point where they had to ask Miller to waive his no movement clause because he does have a full no movement clause. He dictates where he wants to go. That works out for the Rangers because it could potentially reduce the asking price if it's only one team in the running for him. Kind of like the Patrick Kane situation where Chicago knew Kane would only accept the trade to the Rangers and they didn't want to lose him for nothing. So you settle on a second or conditional second with the hope of it becoming a first, something like that. But the offer at the time was something the guys from The Athletic, I think Peter Ball and Arthur Staple combined to report on it, plus a couple guys from Vancouver. The offer, I believe, was Philip Hedl, Ryan Lindgren, um, possibly 2 prospects from the Rangers minor league system because they had Adam Sikora and Yaroslav Hemelash scratched on Saturday. So, and they weren't, according to the people that cover the Rangers minor league team, the Wolfpack, those guys don't usually get healthy scratched. So maybe those were the guys that were supposed to be in the trade for Miller. But the trade fell through, apparently because they couldn't agree on the conditions of the first round pick. I guess Chris Drury wanted it to be lottery protected, and the Canucks didn't want that. So, I mean, that's a pretty big thing considering the Rangers had a really rough stretch earlier in the season. They're not currently in a playoff spot, haven't been for a little while now. So, I mean, it makes sense why that would fall through. But what concerned me the most about this trade was that Philip Hedl was included in it. Elliot Friedman did go on to say that there was a trade. He believed that the trade was Hedl, a first round pick, and a prospect. That was the offer, according to Elliot Friedman. He wrote about it earlier this week. Even with that, I'm still on the fence about. Actually, more on the side of not doing that trade because it includes Philip Hedl. Now I know people are saying, okay, you have a concussion history with Philip Hedl, and at any point, if he gets another concussion, another head injury, that could be the end of his career. But he's 25 years old. He's such a dynamic player, very impactful. Every time he's come back from a concussion, he seems to have picked up right where he left off. All those concussions happened when he was like near the top of his game. I've noticed. You had last season when he was with the Panarin, when he played with Panarin. That was unfortunate because he was playing some really good hockey. Then the other one I remember was in 2020, 2021 in January. He had a really strong start to that season before he got hurt. Remember, it was against Pittsburgh. Really good start. I believe the line was Hedl, Kakko, and Phil DiGiuseppe. They were playing really well together. And then again, Hedl got hurt, and it took a little while for him to come back. But once he's fully healthy, he goes back to being impactful. And the Rangers are really thin down the middle. I'm very hesitant to include Heedle in a trade for JT Miller. I wouldn't do it. Um, it's just I would rather trade someone like Brennan Othman than Philip Heedle because down the middle, the Rangers are weak. On the wings, they're stronger. They have Berard, they have Othman, Perreault, already have Lafreniere up. They have Sikora down there too. There's guys that they've drafted. Like there's enough Cooley, not to mention. Um, there's guys there that they could deal from a position of strength to address an area of weakness. And Miller can play center and the wing. So you trade someone like Othman, maybe you give up an extra asset in place of Heedle. Maybe Vancouver really wanted Heedle, but because you're not going to give him up, you give up an extra asset. So maybe it's Othman, a first, and two extra prospects on top of that, like Sikora and maybe a defenseman or something like that. Maybe you throw in Lindgren um, or Keandre Miller. I would rather do that. I would much rather trade Brennan Othman because, like I said earlier in the season, I said Will Cooley made Brennan Othman expendable. If you want to put your chips in for this season and go for it, I don't want to give up. Heedle represents your best trade asset. He's currently on the team and he's performing and he makes that third line go. If you deal him, you risk making that third line go down in production. I don't think it performs the same way with him out of the lineup versus who you're going to replace him with, right? Like, are you going to put JT Miller on the third line? I wouldn't do that. I would rather put Miller on the wing with like Zibanejad. Maybe you trade Riley Smith at that point. You keep Kreider and Zibanejad separated. And on top of that, if Drury is set in his ways that the core still needs a change, like we thought was going to happen earlier this season, you could still trade Kreider and or Zibanejad in the offseason. If you want to make one last push with this current group of guys, you could go for it this year because they've been playing well. They've pushed themselves back into a playoff race. But you don't have to sell every single guy on your team just to get JT Miller. Like I would hold on to Heedle and trade again. I would trade Othman before I trade Heedle. That's just how I feel. That's how I feel. And that leads me to come up with the conclusion for this entire segment here, the Ice Cold Take segment. Should the Rangers trade for JT Miller? Yes, he's exactly the player the Rangers need and the identity shift we've been asking for this season. He had 100 points last year, is a hard-nosed player, plays well in the playoffs, and brings the fight to the game. He will push the team to give it their all every night. And on top of that, he can play center and the wing, so it opens up a lot of different ways he can be used in the lineup. They can stack the first power play unit or split it up to give themselves two centers on each unit. His age might be an issue, but I look at this like a Marty St. Louis situation where your championship window is closing. So you get the guy that might be over the hill, but for sure is still good enough to help you win right now and provide a push over the edge, over that metaphorical hump that the Rangers haven't been able to get over. To me, though, it's all a matter of what you give up because there are other moves the Rangers can and should make in addition to this one. Those being defense and an injury replacement. I would prioritize one, maybe two defensemen. Maybe you go after Rasmus Anderson. He's right-handed, so I don't know how willing the Rangers would be to do that, put two righties on a pair. They don't usually do that, but he is probably the best defenseman available on the market this trade deadline season. But I feel that JT Miller is the guy that the Rangers need to prioritize, the most realistic option that is available, unless Brady Tkachuk somehow becomes available or Alex Tuch. If Brady Tkachuk is available, I wouldn't mind giving up Heedle in that trade. I wouldn't. But It's interesting. When that trade rumor was floated out, the Hedel, Lindgren, a first, and prospect or two, I saw as many people say that it was really bad for Vancouver as it was as I saw people say that it was really bad for the Rangers. So both fan bases were really upset with that trade. Like, people were saying, "All right, don't give up Hedel. Why would you trade for Miller? This is stupid." The Canucks fans were saying, "No, get Schneider. This is not enough. Hedel is not impactful. He's not good enough. He always gets hurt. We're selling low here." The Canucks might be boxed into a corner here. I think Miller has made it clear that he wants out, and he does have that full no movement clause. So again, he dictates where he goes. If they if they just want to keep him, I mean, they could do that, but I don't know if they're going to be going anywhere. Your on ice product's going to suffer. Your team's not going to be good. If he's made it clear he doesn't want to be here, it's a problem for him. Whatever is going on with him and Pedersen, I mean, I don't know why you would hold on to that. I would try and get value where you could. Maybe you hold on to Miller and you trade Pedersen. In that case, maybe you have to give if it's Pedersen that's going to the Rangers, then you might have to give up on Hedel there, at least to make the salary work. And that's another thing too. In a trade for Miller, people were saying, all right, if you trade Hedel, at least for right now, this year and next, the remainder of Hedel's contract, you're taking off half of Miller's salary because Hedel's at 4.4-ish million, 4.44 million for this year and 2 years after that. So actually 3 years. And Miller's contract is at 8.5, I think around the same as the Zibanejad. So you're cutting it in half for the next 2 seasons after this one. So it's not that bad for the Rangers. But if you don't give up Hedel in that, the Rangers have the cap space right now to keep him, to keep JT Miller on the team and make more moves after that. They could, like I said, trade Kreider, trade Zibanejad in the offseason. And that is realistic because Drury made it clear that he's ready to make trades and stuff like that earlier this season. He's not afraid to do that. He saw what the roster was. Peter Ball was saying last week that Drury, he felt that Drury's mind was already made up and that he would sell off some assets. Maybe it's not. Maybe he doesn't sell off Kreider and Zibanejad right now because the Rangers are playing really well. Maybe he sells them off in the offseason. That's realistic. I think that's a possibility. And if you trade Kreider first, that might entice Zibanejad to waive his no movement clause, and you see what you get back for him. Miller's contract's at $8 million for this year, and then the next 3 years after that. So, I mean, you get him until so he's 31 right now, 32, 33. You get him until he's 34 years old. Is that worth it? I think so. I think for this year, at the very least, I know it's frustrating though because the Rangers didn't push all their chips in last year and they should have. Absolutely, hindsight is 2020. They absolutely should have. They were so close to making it to the finals, getting over the hump. They should have traded for Jake Gensel. They should have made a bigger push for that. I understand that this year is definitely not gone the way we expected it to. At least the beginning hasn't. Things are starting to turn around though. We know what this team is capable of. So why not go for it? I would I would I would trade for JT Miller. I want the player, it's just the asking price. It's just what you would have to give up. And if it keeps going like this, you know, Vancouver might have to sell Miller for pennies on the dollar or a discount on what they were asking for. The Rangers might be able to get away with a trade for Miller without giving up Filip Chytil. And that's the big thing there. You get rid of Hedel, and you're creating another hole in your lineup that you're going to have to fill. And I don't know if that player is available mid-season to replace. Kaliev has fit in nice down there. Berard's a great player. We know he's been impactful when he was up here. I know he's still a rookie, but if he comes back up, he fits in nicely on that third line. He's got a good shot. He's really fast. Kreider, Hedel, and I want to look at the. Let me look at their metrics here because I haven't looked at it just yet. It's only been a few games, but the Rangers have been sticking with the same line combinations for a little while now. I mean, it makes sense because it's been working for them. So why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Arthur Kaliev, Kreider, Hedel, Kaliev. I know the first couple games were a little rough. Let's just go by the last 2 games because I thought they played really well against Ottawa, and I thought they played really well against Philly. Well, I was wrong. Outshot 14-5. They have 2 goals. Outchanced 6-1. High danger chances, 2 against, 1 for. I mean, maybe it isn't that good. Um, but I mean, Kaliev fits in pretty well with the Rangers because of that shot. Hedel makes the line go. Maybe it's Kreider that's the issue. Um, we've said it before about Kreider, um, which is why I'm floating out the idea of possibly moving on from him in the offseason. But the Rangers, I think, are in a good spot here. I know it looks scary because Carolina just traded for Rantanen. They're gunning for the Stanley Cup. This puts them in the upper echelon of Stanley Cup contenders. I think so. It's a really good trade for them. And the Rangers are still fighting for a playoff spot. They're not going for the. I'm not prioritizing winning the division. Just get in the playoffs, get to the dance, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, maybe they're first round exit. Maybe they're not. You never know what could happen. Like it's pretty much the same exact team from last year. They've gone on runs before. I mean, don't count them out. But the flaws still need work. I think the pinching in the offensive zone, they have to be mindful of that. If they could play a little bit more like they did in that third period against Philly, where they let the game come to them, trap it up in the neutral zone and go the other way, I think they could find a lot of success. But the problem with that is you don't really have the personnel. Our personnel is just skill based. So, I mean, looking at that, they want to take risks. They want to uh, spend a lot of time in the offensive zone, pass the puck, hold on to the puck, stuff like that. Not really a defense first kind of roster, but if they play just a little bit more like that, I think they could find some more success. Um, well, anyways, that wraps up this episode of Ice Cold Takes. We talked about a lot of things. I like doing these episodes on Saturdays because there's a lot of stuff. The way this season has gone for the Rangers, there's just so much stuff to dissect in season, in each week, that it's better to just wait until the very end of the week to talk about it before, moving on to the next week where there's even more stuff to talk about. So the Rangers are back in the playoff hunt. Hopefully they keep playing really well. We'll see what happens on trades here. If they waited out a little bit longer with JT Miller, maybe they get that asking price to go down just a little bit more. That would open up more for Chris Drury to make more moves. And with that cap space, he could act as a third party broker, do what Chicago did, and retain some salary, use that cap space to his advantage, recoup some of those assets he gave up in previous deadlines without having to give up any players. Maybe you give up like a minor league guy you're not using, but just to make the salary work, make the trade work with the NHL. Anyways, that's it for me. Thanks everyone for coming by, checking out the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time.